MRC, Neighborhood Watch, VIPs, those that are still there, that has lost it's lost its name from the national perspective, so that's another story. But it's CERT, VIPs, MRC, Neighborhood Watch, and I'm missing the one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What am I missing? Fire Corps. Okay, so the idea is for the Citizen Corps Council to be that platform to bring those partners and anyone else together. And the members of the Citizen Corps Council, the recommended inclusion are people from emergency management, from fire, from law enforcement, and either health partners or public health, or there's a laundry list. But realizing it's a challenge to get all that representation there. But the idea is to bring those folks together with, again, like you said, the vision of emergency preparedness and doing things that inform the public about community preparedness. And I believe, you're saying it slightly different, but I believe you're on track. The Citizen Corps Council focuses on emergency preparedness and the public outreach perspective of it. Once that's being accomplished, when you go out and you do a meeting and inform people about preparedness, then you can say, okay, there's opportunity to learn more about this through CERT, through MRC, through Fire Corps. And by the way, CERT has this program that you can attend for free, the basic CERT class. And then when they go, if they choose to go to that, and at the end of that, they decide they want to volunteer wherever that CERT program is, then they can choose to do so. But the programs itself, like CERT, those are typically associated with the Citizen Corps, but they will have a local sponsor, either an emergency management, law enforcement, or fire department, and they are going to work with that sponsoring agency to determine what their needs are and help them achieve those needs. So like for Fire Corps, they may say, okay, they work with the fire department, and the fire department says, you know what, we could use a program that goes out and checks smoke and installs smoke detectors. And that's not unusual. In fact, some of the CERT programs do that. So what the challenge has been is that in the more rural communities, there's often a blurred line between Citizen Corps Council and CERT program. There's a couple of reasons for this, but the main reason is that if you were to look at an org chart of all the 5 partner programs, Citizen Corps and the CERT program, going up to the national perspective, all end up with the same agency, U.S. Department of Homeland Security / FEMA. MRC goes up to Health and Human Services. Neighborhood Watch goes up through, and I can't remember if it's the Police Association or the Sheriff's Organization, one of those two. Fire Corps goes up to fire at the national level. And for the life of me, I can't think of the lead organization. I don't have the diagram in front of me. And then VIPs used to go up through one of the police organizations as well, although that one is kind of dismantled. That happened a few years back. So there are a few active VIPs programs, but sometimes, but not the active organization all the way up to the feds. So, and this is not uncommon even nationwide for Citizen Corps councils and CERT programs to almost be synonymous within rural communities. It just happens that way. Now, the purpose and what you might go out and your activities might be is, again, getting together and saying, okay, if our purpose is to go out and do public outreach, how do we and how does our sponsoring organization, and with Tucson Citizen Corps, that to me it's a little bit vague to me yet, and because it was the and I thought it still is the National Guard down there.
Okay.
The Southern Region National Guard.
Okay.
So if that's the sponsoring agency, then I would say, okay, here's the message, or here's the vision. We know we should be involved in community preparedness. What are the needs of the sponsoring agencies, and what is it, or how would you like us to be fulfilling that mission? And the same with the CERT program. If a CERT program, every CERT program and every Citizen Corps council should have a sponsoring agency, and that partnership with that sponsoring agency should, to a certain extent, be driving what some of the activities will be for that council and or CERT program.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That does. And our sponsoring agency is, as you said, the Southern Arizona National Guard, but they had a greater mission of being on the border right now. So we haven't really interacted with them. Let me say this, at all, as of yet.
Okay.
So in the meantime, understanding the mission of Citizens Corps, which is on the website, and let me clarify what it says about, so the mission, the statement that's there on the website, is that a good mission statement or not?
It should be.
Okay. So
are you looking at federal? Is that what you're looking at, or state?
It says preparing the public for local risk and targeted outreach, engaging volunteer organizations to help augment resources for public safety, preparedness, and response capabilities. All that information, is that good information or not?
I'm going to just go out and double check that
Okay.
Let me see.
Perhaps together.
Let me make sure. If it's on FEMA.gov or Ready.gov, I'm going to say yes.
Okay, so it is. That's exactly what's on Ready.gov, and that's exactly what I had taken. So that is a good mission statement, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct.
All righty. So, and it talks about Citizens Corps programs include a national network of over 1,200 state, local, and tribal. Okay.
Yep.
So all that's good.
Got it pulled up right now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. And all righty. So so that I won't take a lot of your time. With your permission, I'd like to send to you the PDF document, which makes it easier. I've got 6 slides on each sheet that I'd given to the board members to give guidance, because Ms. Kennedy, what has happened is people have been there for 6, 8, 9 months. They still don't know what we're about. These are people on the board coming to the board saying, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what we're about, but we've spent a lot of time doing things with the Red Cross. And in other words, promoting anything and everything that they've done, we got to the point where members of the board, I thought that we were partners. Or in fact, that one comment was made, and it should have been, and I had them clarified later, but it was too late, like they're a sponsoring organization. They don't sponsor us. It's just that there's a good working relationship there. And I'm not trying to degrade that relationship, but if we're supposed to be doing certain things, our efforts have been thwarted twice in 2 years by events that have gone on with deployments to the Red Cross, and that shouldn't be. But that's my personal thing there.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, and so,
yeah.
But, okay, and so with the preparedness briefings, I looked at, as I talked about 5 core activities, disaster preparedness briefings, and I said, well, comment was made, you can't do that because of liability issues. I said, well, let me explain to you in the presentation. I showed it. What is it that Ready.gov says you should talk about? The general preparedness, financial preparedness, life safety skills, knowing your local conditions, and preparedness for the different weather. I said, so how can a person or organization be held liable for sharing information that's on Ready.gov? Am I right or wrong?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Shouldn't be a problem.
Yes.
In fact, I was thinking, and I was trying to find it. There should be a presentation or a document on Citizen Corps. I was trying to see if I could find it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, continue. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I was just thinking of that.
and so without going through the whole document, what I tried to do was I tried to say that if we had 5 core activities where we have an outreach program or an outreach effort of talking with and empowering communities to be more resilient. And with those communities, and we've selected 2 different types of communities. One communities are these constituted communities, such as we have more than 70 mobile home communities here. And since we are familiar with 55 plus, we're familiar with combined communities, we were thinking they're already constituted communities. And we've had, over the last couple of years, through other efforts and other events, we've been able to go to these communities because they actually ask people to come in and talk with them concerning different events. They always look for speakers.
Right.
So we were looking at that. And because we have about 3 of our members, 3 of our board members, Dan Donnelly and his wife Lynn, along with another guy named John Richens, who has been added, and another individual, Harry Bonfield, who are all Mormon individuals with the Church of Latter-day Saints. Their churches are very prone to be more preparedness focused, but they're looking for a way to engage the different wards and stakes. And so we're looking at what can we do to come up with a strategy, just a strategy that instead of saying, well, I talked to my church and they all go to the same ward, and we're going like, we completed that. We talked to them. Yeah, but that's great. But is anybody talking with a Catholic congregation, or is anybody talking with a Baptist congregation? And do we know if any of these congregations would be open to, at least if we can't talk with their congregation, talk with their leaders so they can raise the awareness of their community? And my approach was, as I was trying to offer, if we first build a relationship, share with them our message, if they allow us to come in and speak, or give them the message so that they can start talking with their community to make it more resilient. Later on, they say, well, how do we do this? We can suggest, for example, for them to host a prepare-a-thon in their community. And then, as we're doing that over these next months, there may be people who have a greater need or a greater desire to do more. They may want to volunteer with an organization or get certified. We understand that everybody doesn't want to be involved in CERT, but they at least need to be able to make a plan, build a kit, and stay informed. That way, at least at the fundamental level, they can prepare themselves. But through that, for those who would like to become CERT certified, that's when we hold a CERT class, perhaps at the end of the year, because we have people who have a bona fide interest because they've already taken care of their family, their pets, their community. And then lastly, we were thinking of, on this concept, you'll see that I talked about having some sort of annual recognition luncheon. And by saying what I've learned through nonprofit organizations, people get excited when you reward certain types of activity. And if the activity is dealing with preparedness, if we start to recognize those groups by saying thank you for taking the time to learn, taking the time to do something about it, others may be motivated to say, hey, what are they doing over there? We need to do something too for our community. So that when people look at Citizens Corps, they're not looking at us as an organization who's always saying they only want money, they only want blood, they only want us to go do that. They will look at us and say, hey, they're actually doing something for our community. And then our response will be, hey, yeah, that's an organization that we should support, we should be a part of, we should be able to, we like their mission because it's not just local, regional, state, but it's national in scope. It's being a part of the national picture of preparedness. But we're working at the individual and the family level. And so I see that as a worthwhile effort to do something like that. And I'm just looking for someone to say, either tell me I'm a lost ball in high weeds, or I'm on the right track. That's all I'm trying to find out here.
Yeah, and I think you're on the right track. And I think unfortunately, I think what has happened even prior to your involvement in the Tucson area is that when on occasion, there tends to be some very strong personalities, and they want to say it's this way and no other way. Right. And I think for a period of time, a few years back, there was just so much of that because Pima County used to be the sponsoring agency.
Okay.
Pima County Emergency Management, but it required a more one-on-one oversight, and they went through a period of time where they lost staff, and some just that they couldn't dedicate the staff to keep up with that portion of it. So they kind of stood down, and to my knowledge, they're still in a stand-down state, if you will.
Okay.
But I do believe you're on the right track. I mean, it is, you do have to, the Citizen Corps is about preparedness. And as a council, it's trying to determine what the council would like to do to do that outreach, in what way, and what ideas they have. And then, like you say, once you've done that outreach, then you can offer the opportunities. There are these programs, and here's where you can learn more, kind of thing. And then you take it from there. But the first step is just the outreach.
So you've got to tell people, you've got to first raise the awareness with regards to outreach concerning personal preparedness. And it does not, and correct me if I'm wrong, it does not necessarily involve taking the next step and getting CERT trained. Am I correct?
No, it does. You are absolutely correct. Yeah, that's only when you do the outreach and you're talking about preparedness in general. You can obviously, you can say, hey, we are affiliated with 5 partner programs, and these are the areas that they focus on. CERT is all about, supporting a little bit more of the first responder community, and also being able to help yourself and your neighbors. Fire Corps is more about being a support. The firefighters, and sometimes you can do firefighter rehab, or you can do, like I said, a lot of them do the smoke detector. They provide support there because that's a need for whatever fire agents that they are supporting. If you happen to like medical and you're more inclined with the medical reserve corps, you can become involved in that, and they do things like the points of dispensing. If there's something where there's going to be medical countermeasures issued, then you might be interested in that area of service. But that is up to you. I'm just telling you about what you should think about in terms of being individually prepared. Here's some other opportunities if you're more interested. I know, for example, you could say, okay, I know in the CERT programs, there are some in here, and here, and here. I know there are Fire Corps here and here, or maybe I can hook you up with, a representative from there. That's the kind of information that I give out when asked about the public outreach perspective.
That is wonderful. I've got one, not to take too much more of your time. I want to talk about funding. We've been operating under this guise of Tucson Citizens Corps Council as a board. We were also told that we're a nonprofit organization. And my understanding of a nonprofit organization, there is normally like an executive director, CEO, or executive director, or a director of the programs, and they more or less handle the outreach and all the other events, the activities. But a board is a guidance, a group of people who provide the time to look at and try to provide guidance, the talent by using their skills in order to help the organization to fulfill its mission, and the tithe, either helping to write grants, find money, support the organization. Is our organization a nonprofit organization, or are we a community? What can we do concerning that? I get mixed messages based on my understanding who we are, and what should we really expect?
Okay, so there are some citizen core councils that are nonprofit organizations. I will tell you that I do not have a good understanding of how they function. And I'm trying to think of any that even may be currently nonprofits, because the one that I thought of is no longer. So I don't have a good background to advise you in that area.
Okay.
What I can tell you about is the other programs that have a government body sponsoring organization, a non-federal government body non-sponsoring organization. And the reason I say that is because our office oversees and manages the Homeland Security Grant Program.
Okay.
Okay, so in prior years, when Pima County was the sponsoring agency of the Citizen Corps program in that area, they applied for funding to support the program. It's usually a nominal amount, but it would cover help for materials, outreach materials, for some of the CERT equipment that would be used in CERT training. And this is kind of sometimes where Citizen Corps / CERT, the line gets a little blurred.
Yes.
Because they both have the same federal sponsoring agency. But primarily it allowed for a funding resource for materials, like I said, brochures and training materials and equipment.
Yes.
Those are the big things. Nonprofits are not eligible to apply under this grant program. It's usually a government entity that applies. So most of the time, and here's where it was different with Tucson, but all of the other Citizen Corps councils and CERT programs that are registered through the FEMA site are sponsored by a local governing body. Now, when Tucson Citizen Corps, they used to be sponsored by City of Tucson Council, City of Tucson City Council. There was apparently to my understanding, the council member that kind of pushed that through and made that a reality at some point left office. And so they were without a sponsor for a while. Pima County Office of Emergency Management, that was when they said, well, we don't want to be that right now, because there were a number of issues that were occurring at the time, and I don't know all of what they were or were not. But for whatever reason, they said, not us right now. We're just going to stand down and put this program on pause for a number of reasons. So when I talked to Keith, he was trying to find another sponsor, and that was a bit of a challenge. But he did find the Southern Arizona National Guard as a sponsor. Well, that was a new one for me, because I had not encountered that before. So I said, well, send me that. And I sent it up to my national point of contact. I said, hey, this is a new one. I've not had anyone have a sponsor like this. Is this okay or is it not? And they said, well, they thought it was okay. So I told Keith, as far as I know, it's okay. However, that does take you out of the ability to apply for any grant funding support because they are a federal entity and therefore they would not be eligible.
So if since they are a federal entity, how do we apply for grants? Or we can't?
Well, you can't with the current sponsorship.
Okay, so we can't.
And it's usually because it's typically a sponsor is usually a local governing body, and it's the local governing body that actually applies for the grant.
Okay, it's a local.
So you're working in partnership with that governmental body, and they are helping kind of direct a little bit of your activity as well, because most of the time they have a mission, or I shouldn't say mission, they have activities that are in alignment with the mission that they would like you to deliver on, if you will.
Okay. And so since we are considered a nonprofit,
mm-hmm.
So we can't apply for federal grants, but can we conduct any fundraising activities?
Well, I believe you can because you're entirely nonprofit, but I will tell you that I'm not familiar with how a nonprofit organization functions.
Okay.
So you probably have more experience and background on that than I do.
Okay. One last question.
Okay.
The whole concept of having to do with prepare-a-thons. Are any of your organizations encouraging people in the community or communities to conduct prepare-a-thons, as is talked about on ready.gov?
Some of the programs, they will do activities. And when we say prepare-a-thons, there's certain days, they've kind of changed it up. They used to have, and not that it's entirely different, but I will tell you the emphasis on this program from the national perspective has changed a lot over the last several years. I've been involved in this since 2000, I want to say 7, okay. 2008 maybe, mm-hmm. or maybe a little bit later than that. Actually, someone else had the program before I did here. But there used to be a separate funding stream that was in just for this program, and that went away in 2011. But the reason I'm saying that is there used to be a lot more activity, a lot more direction, and information that came down from our federal partners to the extent National Preparedness Month in September was the big month, the big push all year long. And that was the one month that, everything was just, do as much as you can and to get out the message. They were PSAs that you would try and get on your local stations. We used to try to get little streamers like in the movie theaters, just reminding folks to be prepared during that month. They would just have like a still shot in some of the theaters, that kind of thing. Then they went to America's Prepare-a-thon, and that was happening in April. And so I gave a little pushback. I said, so are we still doing National Prepare-a-thon or National Preparedness Month, or are we doing Prepare-a-thon in April? What is it we're doing? Because you're starting to muddy. It was almost like National Preparedness Month kind of took a back seat and Prepare-a-thon took the front seat. So they kind of did that for a year or two. And then the latest, which was a couple of years ago, is like, okay, we're just doing Prepare-a-thon all year round. So, okay. And even with National Preparedness Month, while they still kind of do that. They used to come out every year with, here's the theme for this year, here's what we want you to push, here's some PSAs that you can use, and here's all the tools. While they kind of do that, they're using kind of some outdated stuff. They're not really spending a whole lot of effort on it. And oftentimes, I won't hear anything about it until, September 1. And in the meantime, you should have been thinking about this for the couple months prior, but we get nothing. Okay. I've gotten nothing from the federal partners. So I'm not sure, because I've even went so far to say, hey, if this is kind of dying a slow death, just tell me that. But they don't say that, and I get it. But anyway, so to try to get back to your question, Prepareathon, I think people do activities to promote, but I don't know that I know of anyone that's doing a Prepareathon.
Okay,
per se.
Okay, so finally, so essentially, what you're saying, if we as a Citizens Corps believed what we see on the website.
Yes.
And embrace the mission there.
Mm-hmm.
And start the outreach program in our community. And by starting an outreach program in our community here in Tucson, even though we have other CERT/Citizens Corps councils, if we start to do that and shape our organization with our mission to do that and start setting some core activities, fulfilling those core activities, and at the end of a year, reflect back, measure what we've done.
Reassess, set new goals, and
absolutely
keep it going.
Even build a membership of people in these communities where we set up a board meeting and then set up maybe a quarterly membership meeting and bring people in and say, this is where we're at. This is our vision. How can we like for you to be a part of it? What can we do to help make other communities more resilient, our neighbors, our friends, our family, and be the advocate of that message? Would that be a good thing for us to do, or you prefer not that we not do it?
Oh, I think it's an absolutely good thing for you to do. Okay. Absolutely.
So, and lastly, with your permission, may I send a couple documents your way so you understand a little bit about what we're trying to do? And I'd like to open up to you and let you know, if you have any advice for me, you will not be sticking your nose in our business. In fact, you are the director of the program. And I'm just going to apologize to you for not contacting you earlier. Perhaps if I would have contacted you earlier, I would have been able to say, hey, time out, guys. I think we're so far from where we're supposed to be, because right now we've got MIPA members on our council who are saying they're coming to meetings and they don't know what we're doing or why we're doing it or even why they're even attending. And they want a vision in some direction. And that's my effort in doing this, because I'm a bit frustrated because we have, by looking at the website and looking at what we're doing, we're not doing it. And I'm about this. It's one thing to talk a message in a meeting. It's another thing to realize it by going out and actually talking to people and empowering them with the information, because that's the only way, based on what I'm reading, we'll have a resilient community when the people who besides ourselves, besides our little holy huddle, other people are being impacted and start embracing the message and start empowering themselves.
Right. Because, what happens is when there's a disaster, if you look at, and I know that's out there on the website somewhere, and I know the numbers are old, but the percentage of first responders is something like less than 5%. If something goes terribly wrong, do you think that you're going to get service in a reasonable amount of time if there's a large population that's been affected?
No way. And it's not their fault. It's just they have limited resources. They have limited resources.
No, it's not. So that's the purpose of just realizing, or getting folks to realize, hey, there are some things that you can do, and they're free to you. We want to tell you about them. Here's some things that you can do to just put yourself in a better spot, because if something disastrous happens, our first responders, yeah, they're going to try to get to you as soon as they can, but if it's a major event, it's going to be a while. So what can you, as an individual, do to help yourself, help your family, and maybe help your neighbors?
Wow. There's two statements here that are made in this about Citizens Corps and its 1,200 state and local and tribal Citizens Corps councils. It says, work to prepare their communities for disaster and make them more resilient. And it also says this statement, Citizens Corps asks you to embrace the personal responsibility to be prepared, to get training in first aid and emergency skills, and to volunteer to support local emergency responders, disaster relief, and community safety. And that's on the website. And you know what? I'm sorry, Miss Kennedy. I drank the Kool-Aid. I believe that's something that we can reasonably do. It doesn't take a lot of money, but what it does is it's the big E word and the big W word. It takes effort and it takes work. And it takes a strategy of saying, and I listed out on the board our last meeting, I said, between now and next September, which is Preparedness Month, if we can just take each month and the two communities they want to look at is the mobile home communities, which I suggested, and we have the others who want to contact church communities. In a 9-month period between January or in August, say 8-month period, we can literally reach 16 communities, 16 separate communities. Within that community, 5, 10, 15, 20 people, maybe 30 people. Within that point in time, that's more people that we've ever reached in the last 16 months I've been involved in this organization. And I think if we reach one person, it's more than what we've done so far.
Well, and I was just going to say, if that's too aggressive, just based on your membership and what's reasonable, and then like now considering the holidays, I mean, let's shoot for trying to do outreach at least, a couple of times within a quarter. And maybe it all happens in the last month before the quarter. But I will tell you, it's a challenge. And it's a challenge from my perspective and just even with our state Citizen Corps Council, which those you probably, I don't know if you get that information. I know that goes out to Keith. It goes out to the main points of contacts that we have for registered programs. But typically there's an opportunity to call in. But even with at the state level and across the nations, it can be a challenge to get folks to come to the meeting, and while they'll come up with good ideas, the follow through can be a real challenge, because people are multitasking. They're doing, well, a lot of times we're dealing with some folks that this is just a part of the job, as it is mine. This is just one piece of what I do here. And primarily it's the oversight, because I'm not going out and into the communities myself. I did that a little bit initially, and then the things changed, and and so my role changed as well. But it can be a challenge. So I'm not trying to discourage you, but the only thing I'm saying is, just be a little bit cautious of being overly aggressive and scaring folks away.
Okay, don't be overly aggressive. Share a message. Have them to own it, and just try to just remind them. Just share the message so that they can start becoming self-aware, and based upon their timing, they themselves will begin to start preparing their communities. That I do understand. This is not a end of the world scenario. What this is just,
right.
This is justice, and I understand that. That's the reason why I'm not active in churches, because from the church perspective, the churches always that I've been involved with have always said, the end of the world's coming tomorrow. Well, tomorrow, that's not the case. It's an insurance policy. People buy insurance when they're driving in case they have an accident. But when you're
And
going
it's funny you even said that. I've used that analogy before when I've presented.
is that right? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I have.
So
I
you
just said,
agree? You
hey,
agree? That's right. And it's one of those things where you say, well, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So
exactly.
that's it.
Exactly.
So great. And
Yeah.
so finally, your email address is cbowen, BOWEN at azdohs.gov.
That is correct.
Great. And so with your permission, I'll send this document to you so you have my
Okay.
contact information. And please, if there's anything that you believe I should have,
Well, I'll keep looking, and I don't know where I found it because it's been a while. It was something online, and it was dated.
Sure.
But it did talk about, the whole purpose of starting. Well, it's talked about the starting of a citizen core council, and it gave some general guidance. So I'll keep. I was just trying to just scan my directory of files, and it didn't jump out at me, but I will keep looking for it to see if I saved a copy of it. I can't remember if it was online. I know it was outdated, but it still just had some good information regardless. So I'll keep looking for it, and if I find that, I will definitely send that to you.
and just remember this, even though it's dated, it's better than what we have right now.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. I'll look for it and see what I can come up with.
Thank you so much for your time, ma'am. Thank you for the call back. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. All
Thank
right.
you. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ms. Cheryl Bowen Kennedy. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, that was a 40-minute call with Ms. Cheryl Bowen Kennedy, Citizens Corps Program Director. Telephone number 602-542-7077. Cheryl Bowen, C. Bowen, CBOWEN at azdohs.gov. That is her role. I called her because I was confused on what direction we should go. And I think, based on her comments, I think it'll help us to shape the direction that we need to take our organization. Today is Thursday, the 8th of November, 2018. Win Green, signing out.